go get a couple of mics. I'll be right back. Now, we have a floor monitor, and at the bottom of it there are 8 audio jacks, and they are from 1 to 8, left to right. And so we will plug one of these cables into there, into number 1. And then we're going to unknot that. And I generally like to put the people left to right as we go. Now here we're setting up for 2 people. Generally, I don't think you want to go more than 3, and 2 is probably better for these little interview shows. At this point, we'll take this connector, the female end, and plug it into the power supply. Now, you need to turn it on, and it doesn't matter, you can plug it in with it on or off, doesn't make a difference. Okay, so you got a little microphone that goes into the plug there, now your power supply, and there's a clip for the microphone, and generally, so you just put it on like that. And one of the things you want to try to do, what I generally do, is if you want to strain relief it. So if you're putting it on their collar, see how I've got this little loop, okay, where you come around like that. What that will do is it will take it and put it on their collar, okay, and it kind of takes it around, and then it's underneath, and they can bring it through. So we got one microphone, and we'll set that one there. So then we take this second cable and plug it in down here. Now to get them out, it clicks in. Now to get them out, you got to press a little button. Again, if you yank on the cord, you will damage the wire. Okay. So now you got your floor monitors. We don't have the system turned on at the moment, but we can press the power on this one, which will probably turn on. This one is connected to the timer, and it should come on. The button for the top one's on this side here. The button for the bottom one is right here. Okay. If they don't come up, this should come into component. Okay, just a regular video, and same thing with this. Now it's getting a signal, so it shouldn't turn itself off. Okay, so let's go into the control room at this point, and we'll start the TriCaster. Okay, so is it on?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so the final thing that we want to set up doing this is bring these office dividers out. There's 5 of them. If you set them around, you're set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to leave a space here, because this is where the person in the control room is going to look in to see the people, on the set. So you leave a space here they can see, but you put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 around here, and it will cut down on the echo enormously. You may notice already the difference, even though the curtains are not currently up, the difference with the carpet down, and if we bring the divider or the office dividers out, it will reduce the echo in here considerably. It's noticeable. Okay, so we're pretty much set up here to do this. We'll get everything set up with this color chart to make sure it's all balanced properly in the other room. Then we remove the color chart. Okay, so now we're in the control room. This one is always on. Okay, this, you turn on the amplifier. There's a pair of speakers for you to listen to your sound. This is a PA amplifier for what's called the voice of God, which is this microphone right here. Okay, if we turn this on, so you can hear it out in the studio. Okay, so you can talk to your people out there. Now, when you're going to take your file off the system, you put a disk drive in here. We have a rack with several disk drives in it upstairs. You come get one of the disk drives and plug it in. And there's a button on the back that you need to press to turn it on. And then the final thing, this is already on, but you press this button right here, and it will turn the system on. You get this blue light that shows up. Generally, you don't want to be rewiring anything. Okay? Everything is hooked up correctly. So the thing is that in the past, when I first got to the studio, nothing was working. Okay? And I came in for, to get a training class on here, couldn't run the class because none of the equipment worked. And the reason was that every time somebody had a problem, they rewired the system. Now, if the system was correctly wired and they had a problem, rewiring it was not going to solve their problem, but they did it anyway. And so the first thing that I did, I came in a week later and spent a Saturday and a Sunday pulling all the wires out. There was more than a half a mile of wire sitting in the bottom of this thing all coiled up, because people would just disconnect this and then they'd get another wire and they'd connect what they wanted and leave the old wires in the bottom. So it was a mess. But now everything is connected. We have had some problems with people rewiring stuff. They have lost their studio privileges because they did that. If you need to do something out of the ordinary, let me know and we will accommodate that. Don't try to rewire the system. Okay, so turning it on, the power here, and the power here. And that'll get you going. This is our audio mixer, and we'll come over and set levels in a little bit. I guess I may as well tell you this. We will probably redo sections of this tutorial because we now have a newer switcher. This is it's capable of switching 4K signals, so it's a high definition switcher. This is 16 layers. You can do any effect that you've ever seen on a television. You can do with this, like all that moving stuff inside windows, and think of a football game. All the effects you've seen in a football game you can do with this switcher. This is a 3.5 layer switcher, which will do. We've been using it for a number of years now, and so we will be transitioning from this to this, and all we got to do is, it's all hooked up. This is hooked up and works, but I haven't had the time to try to master it. So we've got a couple of people who are working on getting good with this thing, and then once they do and they can teach other people, we'll make the transition and disconnect this and start using this. The way the switchers work is very similar. There are some significant differences, but anybody who understands how to use this with 20 minutes worth of practice can learn how to use this. So, but this is called the TriCaster. Okay, first thing is I'll press the button here, which gives us the timer. So we can set a timer for our program. So, okay, so if the timer's, there's a little Mac over there, it's usually left on all the time. It doesn't draw very much power. If somebody has turned it off, you can turn it back on and it'll come up. And it's set up so it goes out to the television out there. Now, if you have to start the timer, there's a little egg timer thing on the surface. Just double click it and it'll start up. Now you can drag this from the corner, okay, to make it bigger so it fits. And then you go up into timer, hit set. And here it's set for 0. So we want, if you're doing an hour program with say 15 seconds of opening and closing credits, we want our programs an hour, we want 1.5 minutes between programs. So a half-hour program is 28 minutes and 30 seconds. An hour program is 58 minutes and 30 seconds. An hour and a half program is 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 30 seconds. Now, you don't have to be exactly on there, but the closer the better, because we like to put a little bit of filler between the programs on the station. And you know, if you're getting 58 minutes out of an hour on commercial television, you get 40 minutes out of an hour. So 20 minutes is spent in commercials. Okay, so we're not that bad, but we do like to put some stuff between. If you've got an hour slot, don't make your program longer than an hour. We will truncate it. Okay, so then you hit the set and you've got this here. So now we have a floor timer, so the people out on your set know how much time they have until they're done. So that's number one. So this is the thing that says timer on it, and I usually put it over on the left side. And what you're going to do is at the beginning of your program, you're going to start the program recording and you're going to start the timer. And then you do your opening credits, and we'll talk about when the opening credits run out, the people on the set can see that that's happening on the floor monitor, and they just chime in and your program begins. And it looks nice and seamless and professional. Okay, I generally keep this system clean. You know, program files, video files are very big, and we would run out of disk space, but periodically I come out here and I delete old stuff. I'm hoping that people who produce their stuff will take it upon themselves to delete things they don't need. In other words, you do your program, you copy it to a disk, don't delete it immediately, because if you do and you drop the disk, guess what? You just lost everything. Not only do we have a dead disk drive that you just dropped, but you just lost your program. Okay? Leave the program on here, it's good as a backup, but then once you produce the program out, come down here and delete your file, okay, to make space for other people. It's just about being considerate. Okay, so to start the whole thing, this is Windows, so we click the Start button down here and click select TriCaster, and it will come up. Now we have a preview monitor here. We can press this, and this will show us the cameras. Now they should, because we set the exposure, match up reasonably well. Come on. Something is not good here. Okay, let's see. There we go. I guess I needed to press it twice. Come on, let's do it. There we go. Okay, so we have, I guess one of them got moved after it was set up. But you notice that the white matches reasonably well, which is because we set our exposure, and the colors match because we set the white balance, so they look, they look reasonably good. Generally, I will come in here, I will take a look and see that they all match reasonably well in this, the background matches reasonably well. If one of them doesn't look right, it's probably because the white balance wasn't set. So you can go out there and fix that. So we got a preview. Now, if we put this out, we can hit this one, and we'll have a program going out. Now, one of the things you might notice about this is, notice how you got a problem with some of the colors here. Okay, see how you get this effect? That's because we have a live set, or what's called a live mat. The cameras are left set up for the blue screen. Okay, so the first thing you want to do when you come in here is go to Input Setup. Now, on the preview line right here, we select channel number 1, and the first thing we do is hit Restore Defaults, and then we turn off the live mat. Let me, in fact, give us channel 1. Okay, so notice we have the same problem here. When I turn off the live mat, okay, which is clicking this button to be off, okay, we get the color chart. Now what had happened is it's a blue screen, so we had keyed out the blue color. So what was happening is we were getting a black background coming through from the key, and we'll play with that. Like I said at the beginning, we do 2 sessions. The first time we go through a corner shoot. The second time we do exactly the same thing, but we go through and key out the background. So you'll learn how to do that next time. So then we go to number 2, okay, and again, same problem in here. And so we restore the defaults, okay, and turn off the live matte, go to camera 3, restore defaults, turn off the live matte, go to camera 4, the live matte's already off, we restored the defaults. Now, let's go to camera 2 because it's kind of square on. One of the things that we can do is we can use these what are called procedural amps, okay, to change the signal that's coming in. Okay, so we can make it brighter, and notice how on here this is a scope of that signal. Okay, whatever's on the preview scopes out here, and we can change the brightness, which raises it up, makes it darker, makes it lighter. Okay, and we can change the contrast. Okay, and you know, mull it out there. Okay, we can change now. It's easier to see what's going on with the vector scope here when we change the hue. Okay, notice how we're rotating it, but the colors change. Okay, we can change saturation, which is the intensity of the colors. We can change the U offset, which moves it horizontally, and we can set the V offset. Okay, now if you come in and you notice that the colors look good over here, which is before they go into the mixer, and the colors look weird over here, it's probably because somebody has changed this. Okay? And it's not their responsibility to change it back. It's yours to learn how to notice it and fix it. Okay? So again, if we just simply go restore defaults, poof, it now looks like it looks like over here. And we're good to go. Okay? So, first thing you do when you come in here is come in and turn all this stuff off. Okay, turn off the live matte, turn off the live set if it's in use, and restore defaults. And whatever is on the, see, it said this here is selected, it says follow the preview. Okay, so whatever the preview is, you're going to get, whatever the preview is, you're going to get on here. Okay, and so go camera by camera and fix this stuff. Okay, so we've got that going. Now what we can do is let's frame the cameras as if we were having, you know, guests sitting there. So I will do that, and you can just go through the window to see what I'm doing. Okay, so at this point, we've got camera 1 is basically getting the person who is on the right side of the screen. Camera 2, in this case, is a master shot. Camera 3 is another master shot where they're both on the screen. And number 4 is a close-up of the person on the left side. So, the thing about one just kind of framing thing to consider, your stuff will look best if you divide your screen into thirds horizontally and vertically. And there's actually pieces of tape on the edges of the monitors out there with 1/3 of the screen marks. So if what you do is you put the person's eyes right about here, that's going to give you a frame that's going to look about as good as it's going to get. Here they'd be a little bit too far over onto the side, and if we turn the camera so the chair's in the middle, a lot of people will put their eyes dead center on the screen. It looks horrible. The person is low and it just doesn't look good. Rule of thirds will give you a pretty good looking frame. Now, my personal experience is if I've got someone who will do reasonably good camera work, I'd love to have just one person walk around and change all the camera. The best of all worlds is to have a good camera operator on every camera. Then you can get good camera, the cameras look, or the image looks good. The next thing is to have one person who walks from camera to camera and changes the framing every time. There's a tally light on the cameras. It's a red LED indicating which camera is being used. And what the person does is they follow the LED. As soon as it goes out, means that the person is switched to another camera. They change the framing, make it close up, further back. You can change the master shot as long as one of the 4 cameras has both people on it. That's good. And but you can do close-ups, you can do far away. I probably wouldn't go, I wouldn't cut anybody's chin off at the bottom. I think that's too close. When you go to the theater, sometimes you have these 12-foot high eyeballs on the screen. And that looks okay because it's appropriate to the story, but that's probably not going to happen in an interview show. So, but you can change the framing. My third choice is just static cameras, and I shoot a lot of shows where we just have 2 people. I set the 4 cameras up and we just go with static cameras, and they're framed reasonably well to start with. My absolute worst situation is to have somebody operating the cameras who's doing a bad job. I would much rather not have a camera operator have static cameras than have bad camera work. And we can talk a little bit more about framing later, but let's move on to start talking about this. But there is one question. If you have a host and a guest, which side should the guest be sitting on? Which side should the host be sitting on? The answer to that is, for example, look at shows like The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson, Jay Leno, or Letterman Show, or pretty much any other legitimate talk show will have the host or the guest on the left and the host on the right. And the reason is that in the screen, the person on the left tends to have more power. That's because in this society we read from left to right. So the person on the left has more power. That's why they are on the left-hand side. And there's a lot of stuff about cinematography around that little factoid. But if you go to propaganda, for example, Fox News, if Bill O'Reilly likes the person that he's interviewing, he will put them on the left. If he doesn't like the person he's interviewing, he will put them on the right. Okay, so it's a page right out of Goebbels' propaganda book. But if you're doing a legitimate show, put your guest on the left. Okay, so we have these 4 cameras. We won't need to do anything else in the input setup. See, there's 2 sets of sort of index cards here, kind of lay out for the menu. We will use edit text in a minute, and then normally you do stuff in live production. The system does have the tools to capture. In other words, you can plug cameras in and read the tapes in. And there is a built-in editor called Speed Edit on here, which is actually pretty good. Way back in the dim past, I purchased a copy of it because it was one of the better editors out. This is years ago. But I don't use it that much anymore, but it's not a bad little editor. Down on this group right here, we have DDRs, which we'll talk about right now. For example, I've set up a couple of animated inputs. In other words, you can do all your credits automatically, and then come to your, say, your master shot here. Okay, and so what I will do is I will start with this thing. I can put DDR1 on the credits. I can take it, and then I can start this. So I would start my program and start the credits. And this is set up so that when the 15 seconds is up, it will fade from the black background to being, to our people, and we can turn it off. You can set up these in Final Cut or an animation program like Lightwave or Premiere. You can create these openings that completely automate your titles. In this class, what we're going to do is we're going to do the titles the hard way. Okay, and we can correspondingly do the same thing with the close. We can take the close, and then when we're done, okay, have it fade away. Sell that military. Okay, so you can do credits that way. We're going to do it manually here. So we're starting in the DDR thing, and what I have, for example, well, we won't talk about this till next time. So we could put any piece of video or any piece of audio that we want to put in here. And for example, mix it in. In DDR2 I have a picture. Or I have this background movie thing that we can play, and it changes the picture every 20 seconds. So I'll keep talking for another 15 seconds and then you'll see that it changes it. So it's just, this is a collection of stills that I took, and it goes as a background on one of our programs. And so it's just a lot of pictures of stuff. So let's stop that. Now you can put sound, audio in. Okay, on the computer we have two digital disc recorders. You can put pictures, you can put video, you can put audio. In other words, music in it for, say, opening credits and the like, and switch things around. Now the next thing that we have here is text. Now, let's put it to the text over here, and we will take it, and now you can put lower third things, or however you want. Now, what we have for this is from two programs that we do, Call In Number. All of the episodes are archived in my YouTube channel, and these are just some websites to talk about. So we can put things over on top of stuff. This is a 3.5 layer switcher. There's a main video layer, and then there's what's called a downstream keyer, which is in front of it. So whatever these are these titles right here. That is the downstream keyer. So we create things that are transparent, except for the stuff that's on there, like the lettering for my name. Okay, and that's the downstream keyer. And then there's a third layer, which is the effects channel. And we will talk about that in the next time, because that's where you put the stuff. If you key out a color on, chroma key, that's the thing that appears. In other words, if that color is made transparent, you'll see the background behind it. So if you shoot against the blue screen and you make that shade of blue transparent, the picture will come in behind your talent. So it's a 3.5 layer switcher. The half layer has to do with what's called a live set, and we will play with that next time. Okay, so in text, we could go out and create some of these titles and bring them in and then use them. But moving through this set, we'll get to text in a little bit. Color background. So what I could do here is I can play the background into here, and I can make it a solid color. I can make it a corner thing, and I can change. I can do a horizontal gradient, a vertical gradient, not very much of a gradient, but I can make a vertical gradient. I go 4 corners. Let's make this one green and make this one there, and let's make this one more primary. Okay, so now I have a 4-corner gradient. Okay, so close on that. Usually a black background is what you're going to want, but you do have those other options. Now, then we go input setup, and that's the stuff that we did right at the beginning, where we went and restored the defaults, turned off the live mats. Then there's an external, which we are not using at this point, but there are plugs on the TriCaster for us to add external sources to it, additional sources, and then recording. Now, what you can do is to give it a file name, and this one is TAS-002. Now I add the O's at the end because, or not the O's, the 00, I'll start out TAS-000. And what happens is the first time I hit the record button, it will write that file. But then it will increment it, so as I record an additional segments of the program, it will keep incrementing that so I don't overwrite the original file. Then there's a location we can put it in, and 3 little dots right here, so that I can click in here and pick. So we go to the D drive, and let's say I want to put it in TTLC, which is another program that I do here. Now I can, if I select this, then that's the folder that it will go into. Okay, so these are our choices here. Now, this little section right here, okay, is the thing that says live. Whatever is live is going out. It's being recorded or being fed out. For example, we can do a live show here. We have 2 of them in operation right now. And we can feed it directly out through the cable as it's happening. There's a total of a 6-second delay in the whole system. But whatever is on this right here is going out or being recorded. So we can switch these. Now you generally don't want to just during a show go from one to the next, because there's a little bit of a delay getting there. Generally what you'll want to do is to select this one, and then, or select the one you want, and then have a preview, okay, of the next one to go. There's your preview screen, there's what's going out, and this right here is just a duplicate of this. Okay? So then what you can do is you can either take it, there's a little button here, and what that will do is it will change between the live and the preview. And as soon as you click the button, it's one frame, it finishes the frame that it's doing and puts the next one out. Okay? So it's very fast. Now you can change to auto it with transitions. Okay? Now if I hit the auto button, I can move the hammer, for example, and transition it any way I want. Okay, up and down, I can do that manually, or I can hit the auto button and it will transition. Now you always have a crossfade available. We can make the crossfade slow, okay, takes a long time, or we can make it medium, which is where I usually just leave it, or we can make it fast. Okay, and there's a little knob right here that allows you complete control. So we can auto, and that's that's pretty much almost a take, and then we can slow it down, and it's really grimly slow. Okay? Now there are other ways to do transitions. So, for example, what we've got, another transition that's here, we can auto that in. Okay, and that will take, you know, between our channels. Here's another one. Okay, and you know, this one is just a vertical wipe. Now, we can go add more. So if we hit the little add button right here, which is right there, we could go in transitions. Let's go for 3D. Okay, let's grab the balloons, open. Okay, so now we have the balloons transition, and so now we can auto, and we have balloons. Let's go grab another one. There's all kinds of stuff. So 3D, we have the angelfish. Let's do the explosion. Okay, so there we've got an explosion. Okay, so you can add all the transitions you want. Generally, you're just going to wind up using cuts or just cross dissolves, fades. Okay, but there are wipes, barn doors, heart-shaped things, and if the selection of them isn't good enough, there's more on the internet. Okay, but again, don't go loading software without saying, look, I'd like to add these transitions in. Talk to me about it before you go trying to do stuff, because if you screw up the system, you screw it up for everybody. Okay, and it may take me a while to figure out how to fix it, and if I have to come in here and fix stuff, I'm not going to be a happy camper. So don't add software. One of the things, these are all Windows-based systems in the switching room. Do not connect any of these computers to the internet. There are internet drops in here. But if you do that and I find out about it, you will lose your studio privileges permanently. Okay? Because the minute you connect a Windows computer to the internet, it begins to start misbehaving. And this TriCaster, which is a Windows-based machine, has been working flawlessly for years. Okay? And that's because it's never been connected to the internet. Don't add software on here. Don't do it. You do it, you're going to lose your privileges. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about transitions. We could start with this, and we can of course reverse them. Okay, so now it's going in the other way rather than you know, doing that. And there's multiple banks of these things. Here's another one. You know, there's just lots and lots of these things, and depending on the kind of show, you might want to do some of these kinds of transitions. For most interview shows, you generally won't. Okay, so that's the transition thing. Most of your switching will simply be select the next camera, hit the auto button. Select the next camera, hit the auto button. Select the next view, hit the auto button. And with a conversation, you want to follow the conversation, just as if you were sitting at a table with a bunch of people. Somebody's talking, you're looking at the person talking. Somebody else talks, you go over and you look at the person who's talking, but you don't look at the other person before they start talking.